strategy to develop eBooks. I'm Scott Abel. We're broadcasting live today from Hotel Zoso in Palm Springs, California. If you'd like more information about the hotel, you can learn about it at www.hotelzoso.com. Actually, today we're doing a little flip-flop. Instead of me being the interviewer, which I traditionally am, today I'm the guest on the show, and my interviewer will be Don Bridges from Data Conversion Lab. Don, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, Scott. How are you in lovely Southern California?
I am doing great, thank you. And where are you broadcasting from today?
Well, I am in, of all places, Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I was in your backyard at Dodger Stadium this past weekend, and that's me on the left, and former New York Yankee great Don Mattingly on the right. So Don and Don, say hello.
Hey, all right, excellent. So before we get started, I'll let you do a quick little update to people who aren't familiar with your company. What is Data Conversion Laboratory, briefly, and what kinds of services do you provide?
Well, Data Conversion Laboratory is a 30-year-old privately held company that converts data from almost every kind of format to almost every kind of text format. Certainly, XML is where most people are going to. If you go to our website, which is DCLab.com, you can learn all about it.
Excellent. So we got a special treat for everybody today, courtesy of DCL, or Data Conversion Laboratory, and also the Content Wrangler. We've arranged with Ann Rockley and Charles Cooper, authors of the new book that's getting ready to come out called eBooks 101, the Digital Content Strategy for Reaching Customers Anywhere, Anytime, on any device. And if you send an email today to moreinfo@rockley.com, that's moreinfo@rockley.com, and include in the subject line, free copy of eBooks 101, they'll give you a free copy before it goes on sale of the digital book. And I'm not sure of the formats yet, but I'm sure you'll get an email from them shortly before the book goes to market, which will probably be in the next month or so. So what a great thing. And I've read the book. It's excellent. I was an editor on it. So I hope you'll all take advantage of that. And for whatever we can't cover in the webinar today, will certainly be covered in the book. A few housekeeping items. Don and I are going to talk for about 40 minutes and then take some questions. Now, that's usually the format. I think today I'll probably dive into the topic and try to answer the question as the guest, and then I'll let Don field a bunch of questions that he had already submitted to me, along with questions that were submitted in advance by people who were unable to attend the webinar today but contacted us via email. If you'd like to submit questions while we're online, please do so using the GoToWebinar control panel, the chat functionality, and you can submit a question there. Those questions will be gathered up by the producers from Data Conversion Laboratory and put into a text file and sent to both Don and I after the webinar. We'll answer those questions to the best of our ability and provide you with any kind of links to useful resources that might help you, and we'll publish those as a blog post shortly after the 4th of July holiday on the Data Conversion Laboratory website or blog. So anybody who's registered will contact you afterward to let you know where that is. Also, if you are experiencing technical challenges of any sort, you can use the chat window to try to get somebody's attention. We have some producers working with us that can try to guide you. If for some reason you cannot participate fully or you have to leave early today, remember, don't fret, we've got a recording going on, and we'll send to everyone who registered a link to the recorded archive of the webinar so you can listen to it later, or if you'd like to share it with somebody, that also comes in handy. So I'm Scott Abel, the Content Wrangler. I'm a lot of things. I've been involved in XML publishing, which is why I'm on this webinar as a guest today. And I work closely with both vendors of XML publishing products and also customers that are clients of mine who are trying to move toward an XML publishing strategy. And increasingly, I'm working with publishers in the ebook space. And that doesn't necessarily mean traditional publishers, such as book publishers. It certainly includes them. But it also means anyone that makes any kind of content that might be packaged in an ebook for convenience or some kind of better preparation, better usefulness to the end user customer. If you want to tweet about this and include my name, you can use the @ and Scott Abel. So I'll just try to run through some slides really quickly to set the stage for this, and then let Don tackle the interview questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So today's question is really, why do publishers need a formal strategy to develop ebooks. And I think the short answer is we just can't keep doing things the way that we've been doing them. Now, when I say we, I'm pretty much talking to the traditional publishing industry, although anyone who creates content today is a publisher. And so there are different degrees of problematic situations that exist in each kind of organization based on the kind of content that they create and the current processes they use to create, manage, and deliver it. Traditional publishers, though, in my view, still think they're creating books. And so these books are created one-off, much like automobiles used to be created before Henry Ford invented the kind of modular parts mentality that kind of stoked the world of automation and allowed there to be factories to create cars faster in a production line. So I think that we should be in the business of content production more than we should be in creating deliverables like books. And so I think that XML helps us get there, and I'll explain why. But I think when we are looking at developing a strategy, we want to accomplish some goals, and one of them is to eliminate waste. And certainly the old school manual approaches that we use today can be streamlined in many ways, and that would give us a little extra time. But we can also use XML to create derivative products that would be very interesting, and I'll explain how the car analogy relates to that. These interesting new products that can be kind of reconfigured from existing content assets can bring in revenue. So on an ROI, or return on investment equation, I look at both saving money by eliminating wastefulness and increasing revenue by developing new products and new markets. So it's an old idea creating this reusable components. Henry Ford, as I mentioned, started it. And this, reconfiguring of content by wrapping it in XML and making little reusable chunks that have semantic metadata attached to it allows machines to help us move the content around and do things better, faster, cheaper, and maybe even more innovatively. The great example for today is that this reconfiguring of existing components is still happening in the automobile industry despite it being 100 years after Henry Ford. Look at the Wrangler. It is a Ford truck. It's been around for a long time. But if you reconfigure the parts and you add some new, unique components to it, you end up with a new product called the T6, which I don't believe is marketed in the United States, but is actually in other places around the world for whatever reason that Ford determined. But if you look at it, the structure of the vehicle is the same. Many of the parts are the same. So this allowed Ford to quickly ramp up and create a new product based at first on the reusable components from the Ranger. When they added unique things to make this vehicle different, they created a new derivative or a new product. And we can borrow from this when we create content, especially ebooks. We can take the components of content that we use to create traditional deliverables, be they technical documentation or training or a book, a textbook, a narrative book, any kind of book, and we can then add unique things to make that product, that new information product, more valuable. And I guess you can gain both productivity gains and then revenue opportunities by doing so. So a few definitions. We all know that these kinds of words can, without a common vocabulary, can cause some consternation as everybody's listening. So let's start with a few. First, what is XML? It's extensible markup language. If you are new to XML, I recommend that you do a Google search and look for w3schools.org. And they have a great XML tutorial there that can teach you what it is. Basically, it's a markup language that allows us to add semantics or add metadata to the content that we create so that machines and humans can understand it. But more importantly, so machines can do things with it faster for us. They can automatically format the information, sort it, filter it, compare it, deliver it to multiple devices. It is an in-depth topic, XML, that we could talk ad nauseum about. But in the world of publishing, XML is a critical component, I believe, to successfully delivering content quickly. So what is an ebook? If you look at the definition here, and this is from the book that I promoted earlier today that you'll all receive a copy of, an ebook is an electronic book. It may be a digitized form of a bound book or be an electronic-only book, which means that it may be only created online and it's just meant to be consumed on a digital device reader of some sort. It's just a representation of a book. And, you know, that might be useful, but it's not all that exciting. But enhanced ebooks and ebook apps, they actually are more than just text and graphics. So ebooks, at their basic, are text and graphics that can be displayed on readers, tablets, personal computers, all kinds of mobile devices. But I think the excitement comes in when we start to talk about the new functionality. So reading Winnie the Pooh in its pure form on an iPad or any other kind of reader is perhaps useful, but it's not all that innovative. Enhanced ebooks, though, they include things like audio and video and links to internal content and external content. They can help you jump around the book and learn things that you might not be able to learn otherwise. Ebook apps, a different kind of ebooks, are software applications. They look like and act like books or ebooks, but they're actually an interactive experience. That keyword, interaction, is one of the components of the strategy we have to think about as we move toward XML, or as we take XML the next step forward. What will we do? What will we make interactive? What does that mean? What kinds of skills will we need our staff to have in order to do these things? And then we'll need to know about formats. What is a PDF? Well, a PDF stands for Portable Document Format. We've probably all encountered them. Many of us have created them. And in the early days, I would say in the 90s, they were the most exciting thing. We could package our content in these mysterious documents that allowed us to maintain the integrity of the look and feel, and we could search the documents later on and find the content inside. So it was very useful. We would give our customers everything and say, here's everything we know about this subject. You can search and find it. But today, PDF actually supports reflowable text, which means that depending on the device that you're viewing a PDF saved as an ebook file on, the integrity of the file will remain basically the same, but the text will reflow. So that's important because we've got page sizes and screen sizes to address now. It's no longer will the consumer open a PDF and print it out later, or onto A4 paper or 8.5 by 11 paper. Now it's like, what will happen if they open it on an iPhone or an Android versus an iPad? Will they resize it? Will they have to use the functionality of the phone to actually enlarge the text to make it large enough to view? These are all things that we have to think about as we decide what formats to support. There's also the EPUB format, which they do relate to one another, but there are some specific differences that you would need to know if you were going to create ebooks for production and port them to multiple devices. So for instance, there are things that the Kindle does not support, and one of them is the EPUB standard, which is ironic. But there are also things that both formats support. And then there's Apple. Apple has their own thing called the fixed width layout format, which is kind of like a PDF for the iPad and the iPhone that keeps the integrity of the look and feel of the document. These are all things we have to consider. And we have to ask ourselves, is look and feel important when you're considering this? And if you're moving toward the iPad, and that's part of the market, and it is the biggest selling part of the market, the most revenue is made from Apple, regardless of what people think about the company, look and feel is important to some organizations. And we're taking a guess, and it is a guess, by the way, there's no science behind this yet, that in keeping the integrity of the look and feel of a coffee table book or a magazine or a travel journal is important on an iPad. We'll have to wait and see whether that pans out, whether we should be making identical photocopies for use on a device and then enhancing them to make them more valuable. And then the rest of the world. The world is full of mobile phones. There are mobile phones everywhere, but there are issues with broadband, bandwidth, Wi-Fi. Do we know how many phones they have, what the resolution is, what size is the screen? Does it matter? And it does matter if you're trying to reach a global audience. Which tablets will you support? What functionality? There's a difference between a tablet device and an e-reader. A tablet is more like a computer. An e-reader is more a single-use device, although they're certainly providing functionality to enhance them. But this is an e-reader. It's a typical e-reader. It's this